The recent B patch has gutted the overpowered units and traits and completely changed the landscape of the meta. In this video, I'm going to show you my tier list of the current patch, take a look into each of the comps mentioned, and explain the best strategies to climb on this patch. Looking at the tier list, Sorcerers are the best comp in the meta. This comp stabilizes too hard at level 7 with Vel'Koz 2 and Swain 2, and caps out incredibly high with Silco and Ahri. The only condition to play this comp is that you have multiple mana items for your backline carries. Gunners are the best AD option in the meta. This is the standard comp when playing Piltover cash out, but Piltover isn't necessary at all. When playing Gunners, you have many options. You can play Jinx or Jace Reroll and go for 3 stars, or just play into the standard Aphelios board. Cho'Gath Reroll is the best one-cost reroll comp in the meta right now, but it's incredibly conditional. You have to have a good opener, ideally Cho'Gath 2 on 2-1, so you can start stacking him as soon as possible, and you also need really good items for him. Challengers are back in 9.5, but are much more of a conditional comp than before. The comp really struggles to play from behind, and it's necessary to hit Fiora 2 early and have time to find all the good items for her. This comp still has a really high ceiling though, but its floors are much lower than before. Rogues are still strong even after some big nerfs in the B patch. This comp isn't really forceable anymore though, so you should only play it from good spots. Noxus Mordekaiser is a great option if you can manage to hit a Noxus emblem or scoped weapons, but you can only play this comp from ahead without those things. This comp caps out incredibly high around legendaries like Aatrox and Scion, and Mordekaiser can often become a 1v9 carry with the right items and augments. Strategist Azir received some heavy nerfs in the most recent patch, but it's still playable on this patch from ahead. This comp is pretty flexible on level 7 and 8, but eventually you want to land on 4 Juggernauts when you hit Aatrox. Other playable comps that are in B tier are Ionia Vanquisher Xayah, Bilgewater Nyla, and Invoker Karma. Ashe Reroll and Sumeru Reroll are unexplored options that can be stronger than B tier under the right conditions, but they are very niche relative to the other comps on this tier list. Now let's get into my strategy for climbing on this patch. The best legend on this patch is Ornn by far. Many of Ornn's items are overtuned, and there's really only 2 items that are below average, which are Gold Collector and Goldmancer Staff. Manazane and Zhonya's are likely going to be nerfed in the next patch, and Sniper's Nest, DFG, Eternal Winter, and Anima Visage are all great options too. Other playable legends are Urf and Lee Sin, but if you are serious about climbing, pick Ornn as he has the best and most simple route. As far as the meta goes, most comps have certain conditions that make them strong. Because of this, you should generally default to the strongest comps when you have no direction. The first thing you should do is to identify if you have good spots for Cho'Gath or Rogues, depending on your opener, items, and 2-1 augment. Usually you will not, so you should play towards a 4-cost carry instead. If you have AP items, you have 2 real options. Sorcerers, which you should generally lean towards, and Strategy Azir, which you should only play when you don't have mana items or you are already leaning into a Juggernaut or Strategist frontline. If you have AD items, you should look to play Jinx, Jace, or Aphelios if you have the proper spot and items for them. You can also play Bilgewater Nyla or Vanquisher Xayah, but they are weaker comps in the meta right now. If you have a good mix of AD and AP items, specifically BT, Sojourn, and Night Harvester, you should look to play towards Challengers. If you manage to hit Noxus +1 or scoped weapons, you should force Mordekaiser and Vertical Noxus, but you can also index more onto Slayers if you have good items like RFC and Nashor's Tooth, and can play around secondary carries like Quinn and Rek'Sai. Augment stats are back with set 9.5, and having a rough idea of the best augments is key to placing higher and climbing up the ranks. As we can see, a lot of the best performing augments are specific for certain comps. This means that tailoring your board is crucial to getting higher placements. This means that if you want to play Sorcerers, you need to have Sorcerers active on stage 3-1 and 4-1, so that you can receive Sorcerer-specific augments like the Crest and Crown on 3-2 and 4-2. Now let's get into more detail for each comp, and all of these will be linked in an Imgur album that is available for patrons and YouTube members, and the links to join those are down in the description. Our first comp is Sorcerers. This is a 3 and 4 cost carry comp, so you want to mainly roll at level 7. Rolling on level 6 early in stage 3 is also a great option for this comp, as there are a lot of ways to spike our board there. If you hit a Sorc Spat, you should usually put it on Shen, but it can also go on a multicaster if you are carrying Vel'Koz. All 3 carries generally use most of the same items as well, so you should itemize your strongest carry first. whether it be Vel'Koz 3, Silco, or Ahri, but usually it's going to be Silco. When rolling at level 8, you should hold as many Swains and Vel'Koz as possible, and make the decision of whether you are going to push for a fast 8, or roll for Swain 3 and Vel'Koz 3 once you stabilize. The main priority for this comp is to build Ionic Spark and a bunch of mana items to itemize multiple carries, with blue buff being the best, Adaptive Helm second, and Sojin the worst. The best damage items are JG, Guardbreaker, Giant Slayer, and Deathcap, and as a final note, this comp is especially overpowered with Mana Zane, which is the best Ornn item, so you should usually be hard forcing this comp if you have that. There are a few ways to play Gunners in the current meta, but the best is to play from a Piltover cash out and then carry Aphelios or Jace, and itemize whoever you upgrade first, and eventually both of them. When you play this, you want to open fort until 3-5, then level to 7, and roll all your gold to make sure you cash out the next turn. You can also play this comp without Piltover. Just drop Echo for this board and play Flex frontline units instead. Jarvan is a placeholder for any frontliner like Nasus, Nautilus, Aatrox, or Shen. Drop Vibe when you hit Scion, and Grace when you hit Gangplank. Jace and Aphelios have similar itemization, but both like attack speed and damage amplification like Rageblade, QSS, Last Whisper, Giant Slayer, IE, and Hurricane. Deathblade and Gunblade are also good options. The other way to play Gunners is Jinx Reroll, where you slow roll at level 6 for Jinx plus frontline, usually some combination of Warwick, Vi, Set, and Nautilus. This comp is especially good with +1 Zon or +1 Gunner, as it's much easier to fit everything in at level 6. Once you hit, push for 4 Gunner and 4 Zon. The best Zon mods for Jinx are Robotic Arm and Shimmer Injector. Jinx's best items are Runance and Last Whisper, and the best third item is Gunblade, Guardbreaker, or IE. Rageblade is another one of the bad items for Jinx, so try avoid making it if you can, or put it on Jace or Aphelios later. Bruiser Cho'Gath is a 1-cost reroll comp that changes depending on your opener and what you hit. You always want to econ up until level 3-1, and then hype roll at level 4, usually down to 30 gold, then slow roll level 5 until you hit. Your backline carry should be either Malzahar or Cassio depending on who you find more of on stage 2. If you hit Cho'Gath 3 and aren't close to 3-starring Malz or Cassio, you can push levels for more bruisers and play around Silco as your secondary carry. If you get an early Shurima spat, you can put it on Cho'Gath and play vertical Shurima. The best augments for this comp are Bruiser +1, Titanic Strength, Endurance Training, Impenetrable Bulwark, and Stable Evolution, so you keep an eye out for those. Cho'Gath's best item are Redemption, Declaw, and Bramble. And if you get an Anima Visage or Radiant Declaw, your Cho'Gath often becomes unkillable. Put extra tank items on Renekton if you 3-star him, otherwise put him on Sejuani. If you are ahead, consider going for Rek'Sai 3 and itemizing him to cap out the board. His best items are Titans, BT, Sterak's, and Night Harvester. The next comp is Challengers. This is a 4-cost comp that relies heavily on hitting 2-stars, so you almost always want to fast 7 and roll aggressively. If you have +1 Challenger, consider going 8 earlier if you think you're stable enough so you can fit in your board. There are multiple ways to fit your board in at level 7. You always play 4 Challengers plus Nasus or Aatrox. Then you either play 6 Challenger with Samira and Aurelia, 4 Juggernaut with Sat or Nautilus, or 3 Demacia with Jarvan and Quinn. Fiora's itemization is much more important than Kaisa's. Her best items are BT, Night Harvester, and Titans, but you can get away with other AD items sometimes. You should generally plan on playing Demacia for the Radiant Sterak's. Prioritize BT +1 damage item. Kaisa's most important item is Sojin. After that, any AP items are good, like Deathcap, JG, Guardbreaker, Giant Slayer, and Archangels. Rogues are the other strong reroll comp in the meta. You have few options with this comp. If you natural a bunch of Graves and are playing from a loss streak, you can reroll Graves at level 5, then reroll the other rogues later. The standard way to play this comp is to reroll for Qiyana 3 at level 6, and Echo 3, Cat 3, and Nico 3 at level 7. You generally want to play this comp when the Ixtal is good. The best two are Wood and Ice. If the Ixtal is Fire or Electric, you should usually drop out of Ixtal and play something else like 3 Noxus. If you get a Slayer spat, put it on Katarina, and if you get a Rogue spat, play for a 3-item Rogue Mordekaiser at level 7. Qiyana's best items are IE, Hodge, Sterak's, BT, and Night Harvester. Cat and Echo's best items are Spark, Crown Guard, Gunblade, Hodge, JG, Deathcap, Giant Slayer, and Night Harvester. Noxus Mordekaiser has one of the highest caps in the game under the right conditions. This comp is especially good with Noxus +1, so you can easily fit 7 Noxes. The best holder is Aatrox, but Nyla, Qiyana, and Nasus are good enough until you hit him. A lot of the time, you'll roll at level 6 for 5 Noxus on stage 3-2, as it's a big spike for your board. By 4-1, you must roll at level 7 to hit Mordekaiser and stabilize your board, with at least 5 Noxus, 7 if you have the spat. If you don't have Noxus +1, consider playing Force Layers with Quinn as a secondary carry. Mordekaiser needs either Scoped Weapons or RFC to be a real carry, ideally 2 RFCs, while the third item can be any damage item like Giant Slayer, Night Harvester, Deathcap, JG, or Gnasher's Tooth. Healing other than Gunblade isn't that great on him as he's already insanely tanky. He steals HP from getting kills, and gets insane healing from Slayer. You should never itemize Darius as a carry when playing this comp unlike the last set, as he has received a bunch of nerfs. Instead, itemize Swain with tank items, and Aatrox and Katarina with any leftover carry items. Strategist Azir is the weakest comp in this video, but it's still good from the bright spots. This comp shines especially with Zanya's Hourglass on Azir or Monazane on Silco. The nerfs to Strategist hit this comp hard, so you should be more flexible with your board and when you are rolling down. The only units that always stay on this board are Azir, Nasus, and Jarvan. You always want a secondary carry in either MF or Silco. Consider playing 4 Juggernauts as it provides you with much more frontline, especially if the San is Virulent Bioware for your Silco. If you hit Aatrox, you should always play 4 Juggernauts as he is the best unit in the game right now. Azir's best items are attack speed items like Gnasher's Tooth, Guardbreaker, Rageblade, and RFC, and AP items like Shiv, Giant Slayer, Gunblade, Archangels, and Deathcap. Silco and MF always want a mana item, preferably Blue Buff or Adaptive Helm, and any AP item like JG, Giant Slayer, and Guardbreaker. Anti-heal is incredibly important for this comp, so you want to make sure to build Sunfire for your frontline or Morello on Silco. You can also check out this tier list in a written format over on Tactor, and if you want to see more of my written guides over there, then check out my profile to see more of the other content I've created on that platform. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you want cheat sheets for any of my comp guides, they're available for you to members and patrons, and the links to join those are down in the description. And if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 9,000 other players there who are hungry to climb. And if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care and see you in the next video.